All right, here we go. NASCAR Saturday night coverage on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. So let's get another win. Hopefully you've been with us on our Tuesday shows because we've been kicking ass over the past nine races? Where do I have it here? Here it is. We have picked 8 winners in the last 9 races. The only miss was Kansas. But again, that's from our coverage on Tuesday nights. We make our picks. CJ Radoon, our lead analyst here for NASCAR and F1. He gets 3 picks. I get 3 picks. We alternate each week who goes first. We can't take the same pick twice. And we go from there. The third pick has to be a long shot. And we have to do it where we're not picking 2 short price drivers with the first 2 picks either. Anyway, so we're doing pretty well there. And so let's hope that we can keep that going. CJ, his top 3 picks this week on Tuesday were Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and John Hunter Nemechek. That was his long shot, Nemechek. And my top 3, Briscoe, Jones, and my long shot was Herbst. First time I could ever recall in a non I was just looking over at my left and I see my cat's in the office and I had already shut the door. And I'm like, how did he get in here? Anyway, where was I? Yeah, I don't remember ever taking Eric Jones like for the second pick before, except for, I don't know, or even a long shot. It's very rare you'll take like a driver that's considered a long shot with your second pick. What was Eric Jones on Tuesday? Let's familiarize myself with that. Eric Jones was 50-1. Yeah. A big long shot. But that's how good Eric Jones is going right now. And he's driving a Toyota. Herbst was my official long shot. Yes, another Toyota. I went 3 Toyotas. And why not? Because they have been kicking ass over the last few weeks. And really, we've talked about this over the last few weeks. Here it goes. Now he wants to go out. And the door's closed. Hold on. Go. And I was afraid of that too. Okay. Well, this is going well, huh? Now I've got my earplugs all fucked up. Jesus. Okay, here we go. No sudden movements. All right. So Toyota, man, they have just been kicking ass over the last few weeks. And we've talked about this when we've gone over the races each Saturday, is that if you look at the trends with Toyota at these specific tracks, they've dominated. And then they go into the race and then they win and dominate. And so here we go again, another track where they've had so much success. They've dominated all 4 next-gen Saturday and Sunday races, really, if you look at it, especially Saturday. And that's why you just have to say, almost like bow to them, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, I got to take Toyotas. I just have to do it. And that's why even though I'm going out of my comfort zone and taking a 50-1 driver with my second pick on Tuesday, it's a Toyota. So I'm just going to do as many Toyotas as I can, as long as I feel. Now, again, I'm getting good value with those, my last 2 picks, obviously. And there's a reason why I'm staying away from the other Toyotas. And we'll talk about that as we go in here and take a look at the speed charts for today. Okay. Also, qualifying and practice in next gen. What's really important here is, if you're going to go by history of the 4 years here at Pocono, then that means that you're not going to take a driver who had a qualifying or a practice session outside the top 15. All right. So every single, the 4 winners so far have all started or practiced inside the top 15. So keep that in mind if that's something that you want to stick with. And it's probably not a bad idea. as I take a look so far of what I see or what I've seen with the race action today. So let's pop it up. And what are we going to start with? We'll start with the qualifying. You want to do that? Sure. Let's do that. Okay. So here we go. Well, let's go to the 15 mark. Okay. Because that's what we said. Even though, if you keep this in mind, that all four winners in next gen at Pocono have not qualified outside the top 8. Okay. So the top 4 rows in qualifying, it would put us right here. Okay. And I actually think that's the way to go for what I've seen today. Nothing there that has changed my mind today. Denny, look at this. Denny Hamlin, who was 2-1 on 2-1. Crazy, huh? He's like plus 250 to 1 on Tuesday. And now we're getting to dangerous territory, though. Really dangerous territory with these odds. Because you're not going to believe what his odds are right now. Should I pop that on the screen right now to give you guys an idea, or should we wait? I'm just going to get them ready either way. So, because yeah. Anyway, before we get into the odds, take a look at, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Daniel Suarez are 1, 2, and 3. Well, take a look at practice. All right. And here we go. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Daniel Suarez are 1, 2, and 3. Now, they're in different order. Suarez is still 3. Denny and Kyle have alternated, but those are the top 3 drivers. And then look now, Larson and Hamlin, of course, we know the pedigree is a lot better than Daniel Suarez, but Daniel Suarez is going through a nice run right now. So you don't want to count him out, but that's how crazy it is as far as the way it looked today with those 3 drivers. They're both in the same zone. But then you have right outside the top 3 in qualifying, you've got 2 really good contenders here, Gibbs and Briscoe. Briscoe was my top pick on Tuesday. And then there's my second pick. That's my boy, Eric Jones, my second choice. And there's CJ's long shot, John Hunter Nemechek. Okay, so now look, we did not take Denny Hamlin, neither one of us, on Tuesday. Now look, this is if Denny Hamlin wins, then CJ is going to have something to speak about on Tuesday because he took Denny both weeks. I think he was 4-1 both weeks on Tuesday, but now he was 2-1. And that's just a number that unless you're SVG in a road course, it's like, I don't think we've ever taken a driver on a regular speedway in NASCAR in our lives. I don't think we've ever done that. It's road course or nothing. And it's really not even road course. And it's not just SVG. I think we've probably done this maybe, who knows, could have been like 10 years ago when we were talking about who was really good at the time. I mean, you had Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon and, there was always somebody that was pretty short price that you were worth going that route. But now his odds have even dropped. It's crazy. All right. So that's the top 8 in qualifying. If you just want to go with those drivers based on the 4-year next gen trends. Okay. Let's take a look at the rest of the qualifying. All right. William Byron, Ryan Blaney round out the top 10. You got Logano right outside. So Joey Logano, as we said on Tuesday, he may not be leading laps. He may not be looking like he's going to win a race anytime soon, but at least he's slowly starting to get back in, hovering inside the top 10 the last few weeks, inside, outside, right around that, just like he's doing here. And that's the first step because he's got more than enough time to pull off another crazy championship win on an even year. Bowman, who's really good, it was a very interesting long shot, had a good qualifying run. Reddick did not. And so this is why when I was saying about taking Toyotas, sure, there were a couple of drivers, though, really good drivers that we both passed on. And I passed, for me, I just passed on Reddick because for the first time this year, he had something happen to him in a negative fashion. And after having such a great start to the season, when something like that happens, I tend to sit back and give them a race at least. And will that be the start of a little bit of a, like, will he go into a little bit of a slide? Will he just maybe have a month where things are just not going his way after everything going his way? Well, I don't know, but I'm just going to stay away from him this week. And especially now that he's starting 16th, but also because of the fact that he doesn't have a good history at the track. And then you take a look at some of the other, Bell, same thing. I mean, if you look at Bell, what was Bell's history here? No, same thing. Him and Reddick are very similar. Nothing great. A couple top fives. That's about it. And then you got Elliott with a very disappointing 23rd. Again, this was CJ's second pick. So that's really disappointing. Hocevar, a very surprising 26th. This was surprising. We did not expect Carson Hocevar to qualify 26th this week. And we really felt that if he was going to, if anything, we even talked about it, that we thought that, I think what was his odds? His odds weren't that high. They were 18-1. And we kind of felt that at the time, we said, you know what, if you like Carson Hocevar, you should probably take him now, because we thought that knowing Carson, he's a good qualifier. He's probably going to qualify in the top 10, and you don't want to see those odds drop. Well, he didn't qualify in the top 10. Matter of fact, he qualified third last year in this race and 15th the year before that. This is his worst qualifying run in his third start at Pocono. And then, wow, look at this. Priest and Keselowski, even though their teammate Chris Buescher ended up in the top 10, and Chris Buescher is definitely headed in the right direction over the last several weeks. He's somebody you want to keep an eye on. The problem with Buescher is you're getting no value with him. I'd like to consider him. He's probably not a bad fantasy driver. We'll get into our fantasy picks a little bit later on. But Priest and Keselowski, Brad Keselowski, what is going on with him? Okay, now let's move over to practice. All right, so the rest of them. Oh, Carson Hocevar. So now I should tell you this about practice. This is important. So normally, I'd say 9 times out of 10, when we're watching some of these practice sessions each week, Group 1 will either have the advantage or it'll be even. Very rarely does Group 2 have the advantage. But on this track, apparently the more war-torn the pavement was, the stickier it got, the faster it got in Group 2 session. So that's the best way I could say it, because when you looked at the speeds from Group 2 to Group 1, Group 2 was just so much faster. And even though they had the better drivers, because they always do Group 2, still, I mean, Tyler Reddick was in Group 1, and he was the fastest in Group 1, and he ended up 11th fastest. Actually, where was it? Yeah, 11th fastest overall. So, Zilich was second fastest in Group 1. McDowell was third. Zane Smith was fourth. Chris Bell was sixth fastest. That puts him 25th. Look at Christopher Bell all the way down here, 25th. He was sixth fastest in Group 1. Elliott and Bowman, look at how slow. Elliott 30th, Bowman 31st. Now look, that's why I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt a little bit on practice with those drivers. So if you want to give Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, any of those drivers, Chase Elliott, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, Alex Bowman, you can do that. I don't think they deserve a whole lot of, a mulligan per se, but I just think that I'm willing to just give him a little bit of a break. Okay. Let's now take a look at the odds. Let's break them out. Then we're going to go through the top 10. And can you believe this? But Denny Hamlin is right now an even money favorite to win the race. I do not ever remember seeing a driver. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I mean, I'm sure there have been times years ago, like Kyle Busch was red hot, Jeff Gordon, who knows? Could have been Kyle Larson, where they might have been even money. Maybe they were even minus, but I don't remember it. That's how long ago it was. And if you want to look at the reasons, like, hey, is it warranted? Well, first of all, I don't think it's ever warranted. But if it's going to be, well, we're gonna give them a pass on this, because Denny Hamlin eats up Pocono. 7 wins out of 36. Just in next gen. Gets disqualified in 2022. Okay? Or else he would have won that race. Wins the next race. Second after that, and second after that. So he really goes first DQ'd, first, second. Okay? Now, here's the problem, though. And of course, we know how hot he is. He's the hottest driver right now going. Now, the problem is he was on the pole last year and finished second. And he finished second at the year before that. And he was disqualified the first year. So he's only won this once in next gen. We're not talking about fantasy. We're talking about winning the race right now at even money. So that's what you're dealing with. That's it. And remember last week, even though Denny blew away the competition at the end of the race, remember how long it took him to get there, first of all. Second of all, because what happened to him. But second, remember what happened 2 weeks ago when he jumped the gun. So, and then look what happened to him last week when there was a big wreck, and he actually got in the, it was in that wreck, but he didn't get anything that affected the car, but he came that close to it happening. And this is why we say it all the time in NASCAR, is that this is why taking even money drivers in these situations, you just better know what you're doing. I'm not trying to talk anybody off of it. But I will say this, I mean, chances are the only way it makes any sense to do this, you got to put up some decent money. So let's just say, you like to throw a few $100 at NASCAR each week. But hey, man, if you want to go for it, maybe if you won some money with Denny the last few weeks, do it. Let it ride on Denny, man. You get your money back. You basically put down 500, you win 500. There's nothing wrong with that. That's like a regular straight bet, like you'll get at the NBA Finals tonight. If you want to take the Spurs at 5.5 and they win by 6, you put $500 down. There's a little vig in there, but you see what I'm saying. So it's okay. But the Spurs, the Knicks, depending on which way you go, they don't have to deal with 35 other cars driving around and messing things up. So just keep that in mind. You just be forewarned, but you can understand why this is happening. It's all aligning. Remember we said it last week that it would kind of be fitting if Denny won the race when he was starting the rear, that the story would watch the story. We could see the story now. Denny wins back-to-back from the rear. And that's exactly what happened. So you just get these feelings when these stories and are happening and someone's in the zone. And so Denny's in the zone. There's no question about it. But again, remember, the reason he's in a zone is not just because he personally is in a zone. It's because Toyota and these tracks that they've gone to the last few weeks are just so edged one-sided towards Toyota right now. It's just all Toyota. They are dominating these tracks. They've dominated these tracks the last few years, and they're right now eating them up this year. So it just seems fitting that Denny could do it again. All right, but anybody can predict that. Anybody. So let's try and do some handicapping here. outside the box thinking. Let's see if something does not happen Denny's way. How do we beat Denny? Well, Kyle Larson, as we've been saying with Kyle, he's starting to lead some laps. He's starting to do things a little bit better. But again, the other thing that, and last week was important too, because before last week, he still only had like one top five over his last several, and he was not doing better at the end of races like he was in the beginning of races. So it was good for him to get a top five again last week. Now he's got two in the last three. So that's, if you're a Kyle Larson guy and you're looking his way, that's a positive. And he's really fast today. So it's Denny and Kyle. They're the two fastest. It's easy. But here's the problem with taking Kyle Larson. He's never won Pocono. 0 for 18. All right. And he hasn't led a lap in his last two races at Pocono. Now, I would expect that in his position right here, that he'll probably figure out a way to lead some laps. But you're still going up against a driver who hasn't won in a long time. I still have to remind myself of that because he won a championship, which is just so freaky. But he hasn't won in a long time. He's never won at this track, and he's 5-1. So, and let's try to use that number the way we normally do, because normally 5-1 is a low number. You know, Denny's making it look like, oh, it's a bonus, man. I'm getting 5-1. Now, 5-1 is actually a pretty low number. So that's pretty low for a driver who's never won at this track and hasn't won in a long time. So probably not any value. If you wanted Kyle Larson, you should have taken him a few days ago when he was 10-1. Okay, now Daniel Suarez, though. Wow, Daniel Suarez was one of those drivers we did mention because there was a good number of long shot drivers that we pointed to on Tuesday that we said, hey, matter of fact, who were they? These are drivers that were 50-1 or better. So we pointed out Jones, Bowman, Suarez, Cindric, Priest, Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, Custer, and Herbst. Those were the long shot 50-1 or better drivers on Tuesday that we pointed out that were good long shots if you want to consider them. And so here's Daniel Suarez with a third and a third today. And it's not like he has a great history at this track, but they're just really doing well. The whole team, Suarez, he's got the win, we know. Yes, he stole it, whatever, but still, just taking a look at recent run, he's got 5 top 15s in his last 6. 3 of those are top 5s. He's got the win. In the O'Reilly series, he's raced here 3 times, all 3 in the top 10. He has 2 career top 5s here, but just 1 top 10 in his last 9 races here. But I'm not worried as much as that as I am about the fact that, again, he's really dialed in right now, and they have a really good day today. Now, the problem is that you were getting a big number of 80-1 on Tuesday. So that's why when we were going over all the long shots, which is another reason you need to watch on Tuesdays, we were saying, here, put a buck or 2 on all these drivers. And then sure enough, this is the reason why, because he's 20-1 now. And now I don't know if you're getting any value at 20-1 when you've got to deal with both Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin just to start with. But probably be a good fantasy driver. We'll get to him in a few minutes. Okay, Gibbs and Briscoe. Now, Briscoe is my top choice. We mentioned that. And why not? He's the defending champ. In his only race with the Joe Gibbs team last year, he goes out. He wins the race. Oh, and he qualified in this race 6th. He's qualifying 5th this year. His practice speed last year was 15th. Here it's 10th. So he actually looks just as good, if not better, this year than he did when he won it last year. And he's also on a run. Remember, he got up to a terrible start this year. Well, he's got 5 top 10s in his last 8 with 4 top 5s, and he was 10th last week. Now, as far as Gibbs, neither one of us went with Gibbs. And part of the reason is that I don't like the way he's gone recently. He's kind of trending in the wrong direction. So he got up to such a great start this season, but there seems to be a little bit of lull, sort of like what I was just saying about Reddick. Every driver is going to go through it, And I just feel that that's what's going on with Gibbs right now. In this at this track, he only has one top 10 out of 4 Cup races. That was a 5th in 2023. In 2024, he did win the pole, led 21 laps, but had engine issues and ended up way back. He raced in this O'Reilly Series twice here, finished runner-up both times. So he's had some good moments at this track, and he's a much better driver this year. So that's the reason why I felt, hey, maybe. But then there were other drivers at the same odds range that are just doing a little bit better than he is right now, and then have even a better history at the track than he does. And then he comes out here today, though, and has a good day. And the good thing is his odds did not move. So I like that. He's still 12-1. Just matter of fact, Chris Buescher, he was 10-1 on Tuesday, and you're getting 12-1 now. Now, these odds all change depending on what sportsbook you're looking at, and the odds are going to change by the minute because they just came out. So I think Gibbs and Briscoe, good values here. And I'm still definitely siding with Briscoe, though, over Gibbs between the two of them. And then you've got the teammates, Jones and Nemechek, back-to-back. How about that? Jones 7th, Nemechek 8th. They're both inside the top 15 in practice. So that's important. And then you take a look at Jones. He's got 5 career top 5s here. And his average starting position's 18th. And now he's starting 7th. His average finish is 13th. So in next gen, Eric Jones has gained 47 positions. He is a must play in your NASCAR DraftKings contest. His average start in next gen is 23rd. His average finish is 11th. And now that's the only thing that you're not getting is the ability to move up from 15th or 20th. He's already 7th, but I think he'll win the race. I think the only thing that stopped him from winning the race last week was Denny Hamlin. Otherwise, Eric Jones wins the race. So he's got one O'Reilly start here, and he finished 2nd from the pole in 2016. And on the season, another driver who's doing really well. 4 top 15s in his last 5, including the runner-up last week. His teammate at Legacy, John Hunter Nemechek, had a really solid car last year in this race. He was 14th last week, recently 10th at Watkins Glen. So he's had some decent runs lately. And so this was why we both felt, and CJ went ahead and made him his top long shot pick on Tuesday. And John Hunter sits here at 66-1. On Tuesday, you could have gotten 200-1 on John Hunter Nemechek. Byron and Blaney. Now, Byron is just not going well right now. So I just can't really look at Byron as somebody that's a viable pick. When you take a look at some of the other options that you could go with, it just doesn't make any sense to take a chance with Byron the way things have gone for him lately. If you look at his career here, 3 top 5s out of 12, 1 top 5 in his last 5. So obviously that's through next gen. He was 27th last year. And on the season, he hasn't had a top 5 in his last 8 races. So even though he had a good day today, I just still think that at 12-1, I'd much rather go with Gibbs or Briscoe. Matter of fact, I'd rather even go with Chris Buescher, the top Ford, who's sitting there in 6th. And if you take a look at Buescher, he finished 4th in this race last year from the front row. It was his best finish, though, at Pocono. Matter of fact, his only other top 5 at Pocono since he won the rain-shortened race in 2016. And that was kind of fluky. So that's a good sign that he had a good result last year, and he follows it up with a good day today. And also, he's been doing better recently. He was 9th last week. But 14-1, look, I'd rather take Buescher than Byron right now. But at 14-1, I'd still rather take Blaney, and I'd rather take Gibbs and Briscoe. Okay, now, speaking of Blaney, this is somebody that's won this race twice. He also started 20th last year and ended up 3rd. He had a solid car that day. He was 1st a couple of years ago. led 44 laps from the 8th position, and he's gained 24 spots in the last 2 years. But 10th, I mean, that's usually like a good sign for Blaney. The bad sign is the practice run. Very confused about what was going on there because he was really slow, especially since he was on Group 2. But it's Blaney, and look, I look at it as, yeah, it's not what you want to see. There's no doubt about it. You don't want to see him that slow in practice. That's why you're getting 16-1. But you are getting 16-1 for someone who's won this race twice and somebody that is on a nice run of 11th or better in his last 5 races. So he's hanging around, and this is the other thing. Remember, this is a fuel mileage racetrack. These big 2-mile or larger racetracks, that's what they are. And not that every race will be decided by fuel mileage, but it can be. So just keep that in mind now, because most of these races in next gen have not been decided necessarily by fuel mileage, but it could always sneak up on you depending on when the cautions come out. You know how it is: luck, bad luck, whatever. Oh, I don't know why I just thought about this, but as we are going to move over to the top contenders, congratulations to NASCAR. We have been preaching this for years, and this is the first time I ever recall them doing it. They are moving the race up tomorrow to 1 o'clock Eastern time because of the weather. And I can only imagine and hope and think it's not a coincidence that they had this big issue before the season started about not just, the whole idea of everything going on with charters, but it was still about just having more impact from the teams and the drivers, and we should have a say, and I just think it means that they need to be more open and receptive to stuff. Now, I don't know if one of those things was moving the race up instead of being an idiot and we got the network and we just gotta, it says we got to start at 3 and we're going to start at 3. And even though everybody knows it's going to rain in 2 hours and we're not going to make the race and we're going to come back again on Monday, or maybe we'll make it just after the midway point, and then the race ends like 2 laps after the midway point, and it's a short race and the driver who wins doesn't deserve the win, but we just get through it. And that's all that matters because we were on network. And no, just dudes, just PGA Tour does it all the time. Just move the race up in advance. Let everybody know. The people who drive into the area to see the races, they'll know. Okay, technology, they'll figure it out. The alerts will come. They'll get it. They'll show up early anyway. And the people in the area, they'll know. They'll figure it out. Okay, so just now, sometimes there's an issue of with coverage, and I get that. But now, look, I don't know. I haven't checked this out yet. I don't know whether or not they're moving the time up on television. Maybe you guys can tell me. Because now I'm thinking they're not, or they don't have to, because it's Prime Video, and maybe this is the only reason they're able to do this is because it's on Prime Video. This is not a network show. There is no, we're on channel so-and-so and such is coming on after. You can just sit there and go, yeah, when do you want to do the race? Okay, you want to do it at 1 instead of 3? Sure, okay. So whatever the reason is, and we'll talk more about it on Tuesday, good. Thank you. So hopefully we'll get the race in, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave them props. All right. Top contenders. Oof. All right. So out of these top contenders, now the first couple big numbers, Joey Logano and Bowman, they both were slow in practice. Logano, like I said before, things are starting to slowly get better, but he really hasn't had a good run at Pocono in quite a while. 1 top 5 since 2016. So I just think, you know what, another top 10 and that'll be okay. For Bowman, now, this is somebody that you do need to pay attention to as a long shot. He has the win just before next gen. He has a couple of the top 5s at Pocono, and he's been 11th or better in 6 of his last 7 races at Pocono with 2 top 5s and a win. And he's gained 56 positions during that stretch. So Bowman is not only a good long shot play, but he's also a good fantasy play. Cindric, get this, in all 4 of his races to Pocono, every time he has shown up in a cup race at Pocono, the next time he's shown up, he's had a better result. He's gone from 31st in his first appearance to 10th in last year's appearance. If that continues, that means he's going to run a top 10. And it's a good thing that he ends up starting in a decent shape to do that. Again, if we're just looking at a top 10 driver, maybe a fantasy play. But overall, if you look at it, he's still not having the year that we thought he'd have, but he's starting to at least show some more signs of being, top 15. He was 11th last week. He was also 10th last year from the 19th position. Here starts 17th, and he has an O'Reilly win. He won at Pocono back in 2021. Zane Smith. You know what I feel about Zane Smith? CJ and I were big fans of Zane Smith. I had the chance to take him as my long shot this week. It was between Zane and Herbst, but I actually went with Herbst. And the only reason I did that is because when you look at Zane's 2 appearances here, his results have not gone very well considering where he started. He's actually lost 30 positions in 2 years here. Now, the good news is where the starts. He started 15th and 9th, and that's pretty good for Zane Smith and this team. And now he's having the best year he's had. But he's starting 18th, so I would have – now, again, I didn't know he was starting 18th on Tuesday, but with the fact now that he's starting 18th and he had a 23rd practice run, I kind of feel like, okay, I'm glad I didn't take him as my long shot. But as we saw a few weeks back, this is a team that's willing to do outside the box thinking when it comes to fuel mileage. And so that's why he was still a really good long shot play in my mind at 200 to 1. Then you take a look at the other guy that I did take was Riley Herbst at 150 to 1. And for Herbst, even though he's starting a disappointing 25th, he was the 6th fastest in practice. And that's going to make him a really good fantasy play way back here. And again, the big thing is he's driving a Toyota. And we also have talked about Herbst up this year. And I think he's really been backing it up where he has been doing a lot better. He's putting himself in position. He was 13th last week. And so when you put yourself in a position and you do it enough, then, when you're the better drivers, you do it because then eventually you're going to win. But when you're like the long shot drivers, it's going to a lot to win, of course. But you're just, if you're 9th and you're 13th and you're 15th and you're 12th, then maybe 1 week you'll be 4th or 3rd because of any number of reasons. And that's kind of what he's doing. And that's why I think he's a good fantasy play. Christopher Bell, look at that. Again, so really felt that Bell, even though things had gone well for Christopher Bell up until what we saw, the big hit with Chase, that could take some momentum out. But check this out. Even though he's had 2 runner-ups in his last 8 races this year, he's also had 6 results of 17th or worse, including 31st last week and 38th. So I just don't think he's like all dialed in just yet. Okay. And now we know how good he can be. We know how he's championship level, but and I don't think it's important. It's really necessary for him to get hot right now anyway. Just maybe go out, win a race, get some top 5s again, get some momentum back, but get hot late when it really counts. Average start position here was 13th, and he's going to start 22nd. Average finish 16.4. So not very good. And that's the reason I stayed away from him. And I'm kind of glad I did, of course. And there's Chase Elliott. Very disappointing. I'm sure CJ's disappointing to see him down here. If you take a look, the one thing about Chase, as we've seen even recently, it's like every other week he goes out there and he just pops up when it looks like that we don't expect it, and he's contending for a win. He's got a win here, as I mentioned. He won the race when Hamlin was disqualified in 2022. But he's only led 67 laps in 16 races, and he hasn't led a lap since 2019. That's the bad part. The good part is in his next gen finishes, they've all been in the top 10. Okay. He was 5th last year, and he had a good car last year. And yet his qualifying, he's only had one top 10 start. He's qualified 18th, 35th. And that means he's gained 42 positions in next gen. And it's happening again. He's qualified 23rd. So I still think he's a really good option for fantasy. The problem is he's a big price, but he's not a bad option. Okay. Chastain, what do we feel about Chastain at this point in time? Hocevar, I think, now becomes a good fantasy driver because of the fact that he's now in the 26th position. I feel he'll definitely figure out a way to gobble up positions and find himself in the top 10. 4 top 10s in his last 6 races on the year with 2 top 5s and a win. 5th last week. 2 top 20s here as far as his results, but he's actually been in the negative fantasy-wise. Average start 9th, average finish 17.5. So, but now he's starting 26th. So I think that will be an advantage now for Carson Hocevar takers in fantasy. Okay, so let's move on over to fantasy. Speaking of DraftKings, I haven't even put any of my stuff together yet. So here we go. Let's go to it. Let's see what we got here. By the way, just so you know the numbers, and look, as much as Toyota has dominated here on Saturdays and Sundays in next gen, they did not dominate today. Chevy was right there with them. So if Chevy can find a way to win tomorrow, then Chevy's going to be able to sit there and go, hey, we had the better weekend. And that'll be the first time. Toyota, 5 of the, in qualifying, they had 5 of the top 8 plus the pole sitter. Chevy, though, had 2 of the top 3. In practice, Chevy had 3 of the top 4 and the fastest driver. Toyota, 3 of the top 7. Ford, way behind. 3 of the top 11 in qualifying, just 1 in the top 15 in practice. Okay, so let's go through the board here and see what we got. Always going to start at the bottom. And let's see, Custer. Still think Custer's, where is Custer starting? He's starting 15th. So I don't think we're going to make out very much there unless he ends up finishing in the top 5 or top 10. Where is Custer's numbers? Let's see. Yeah, we talked about him as also a viable big long shot because he's coming off a really good finish last week, 12th place finish, and he has 2 Pocono wins in the O'Reilly Series. He also has 2 poles in the O'Reilly Series at this track. So it just felt like, hey, he's really good at this track overall. He knows the track well and knows it successfully well. And he's coming off a really positive week last week on a big track, just like this one. Okay. So I think he's an option. I definitely do at 5,100. Moving on up. Now, for 800 more, we can get John Hunter and Nemechek. We can also get Riley Herbst. Okay, so we definitely want to consider them. There's Zane at 68, but I still prefer to go with Herbst at this point. Priest, what a slow day for Ryan Priest. And again, Priest and Keselowski. I don't know what's going on with Keselowski lately. No top 10s in his last 6 races, 4 results in the 30s during that stretch, 34th in his last 2 races. He only got 1 top 5 in his last 9 at Pocono, even though Pocono has been a good race, a good track for him. But the last 2 results, we really felt that he would be a good play this week if he had a decent day today. Unfortunately, it's like it was his worst day. It was like he's been having bad Saturdays after bad Saturdays after bad Saturdays. And until the last few weeks came, he still found a way to make it up and be a halfway decent fantasy driver. But then the last couple of weeks, he's done nothing on Saturdays, nothing on Sundays. And then he has the worst Saturday that I've seen him have in a while. They had engine issues on practice. That's the reason why. No, in the qualifying session. That's the reason why that didn't work out. But yeah, he gained 37 positions in his last 7 races here. Top 10s in the last 2 races. Led 20 or more in the last 2 races. Led in the second stage here last year until he decides to pit when the pit roads were closed, and blew his chance to win the race. And it's another reason you were thinking about Denny Hamlin and all that. Well, Keselowski actually looked like he could have won that race if he didn't pit when the pit was closed last year. So that just shows you again that if something stupid didn't happen, who knows? Maybe Denny finishes 3rd instead of 2nd. All right. So, and Preece, man, I just thought that after his 8th place finish last year here, that maybe, and he's gained 37 positions in his last 5 races at Pocono, that he'd be a solid fantasy option. But wow, his results in the last 3 races this year have not been good, and he had a terrible day today. Okay, who else is good? Bowman, you got to consider him. Only problem is he's starting 12th. Cindric's an option. Definitely love Eric Jones. That's a must. Look, Suarez is only 7,700. We got to consider him, even though he's up there. Host of our 8,700 isn't all that bad. All right, now we get to the big boys. So, man, I don't know. What do I do with Denny Hamlin? I almost feel like this is like one of those weeks where I want to maybe do 2, one with Hamlin and one without, because he's probably going to lead laps early, and it's going to be how much money? See, look, I could actually do that in this one. How about that? Look at that. I could take Denny Hamlin. Who's the other one I would probably go with here? Who do I like the most? Well, Briscoe. Briscoe would be the other one that I like the most here. Okay, so how about that? I take Denny Hamlin, and then I could still get Hocevar starting 26th. I get Jones, Suarez, cheap. Herbst is cheap. Hunter Nemechek's cheap. And I also get Toyota. I get 4 Toyotas. That's not bad. I think that's a pretty good one, right? That's a pretty smart way to do it. Take Denny Hamlin in case he dominates the race, and then take all these cheap drivers and see what happens. Now, I do have 3,000 left over. So let me see who else. Like if I wanted to take someone else, let's see. Briscoe's 98. Who's close to that? Who would I not want to put in there the most? See, Suarez is going to have a top 5 car, but why wouldn't he, right? I don't know. This is a tough one. I'll have to think about it. But that's something I'm probably going to think about is take out. I got 3,200 left over. So I'd have to decide which one of these drivers I will take out. And who do you think I should take out? Nemechek, Herbst, Jones, or Suarez, or Hocevar to substitute him with Briscoe. And you get no other option. I'm giving you no other option. That's what I'm going to decide on, because it now that I've got $3,200 left over, it makes more. Why don't I just put Briscoe in there? He's my top pick. So I just got to decide, who do I replace him with? Now, I'm not going to replace him with Jones, and I'm not going to replace him with Herbst. So I'm just going to go with my 3 picks: Herbst, Jones, and Briscoe. That leaves Joe Nemechek, Suarez, and Hocevar. Hocevar, I'll be able to gobble up some positions. Suarez is going to have a good race, okay? Because I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to even lead laps with Suarez, and I'm not getting any positions. Nemechek as well. I don't know. I'm probably, and also Nemechek's a Toyota, and I'm kind of leaning towards it being either Suarez or Hocevar. I don't think I want to touch any of the Toyotas. I think I want to go with another Toyota in Briscoe and then take out either Suarez or Hocevar. So let me Wow, this is a tough one. Let me see. I'll take out Hocevar, put in Briscoe. What do you think about that? Let's go with that for now. Enter the contest. Congratulations. I'm in, baby. I get Hamlin. I get my top pick, my second pick, and my third pick. And I add Nemechek and Suarez. And there you go. And I hope I gave you enough other information to go on with the fantasy, with the bets. And if I had to just start all over today with bets, again, I'm telling you, I gave you the suggestion with Hamlin. That's the best I can do regarding which you want to do. If you're really, really confident, I mean, it's not that you have to be confident. Let's just say because it really depends on your state of mind too. Everybody has a different state of mind. Everybody has a different thing going on. Like for instance, if you were like, you know what, I really need this one. I really, really need this one. Well, then you know what? Go take Hamlin, man. Just take him. He's the even money driver for a reason. So just take him. And if he comes through for you and he dominates the race, then you're like, yeah, man, I needed that. Because any other driver you take is definitely going to be a lot more risky. But if you don't need it and you're trying to make some money here without investing a lot of money, then there are other options that we went over today. So yeah, and again, and I just don't really have. I will say this: if I was going to now that I know the qualifying results and the history here. And let's say I don't want to take Hamlin because of the price. And look, if I don't want to take Hamlin because of the price, then I don't want to take Larson because of the price. So that and it's really also going to be hard for me to believe that Daniel Suarez is going to win a second race so quickly. But who knows? Maybe this one it'll be more deserved. But I would say Suarez. Well, look, I would go. I'm still besides Briscoe and Jones, which I still like. I would just say those top 8 drivers are the ones that make the most sense because it goes back to what we've talked about. Every next gen winner's been in the top 8. But if you take Hamlin and Larson out because of value, then those are the other ones. Suarez, Gibbs, Briscoe, Buescher, Jones, and Nemechek. 3 through 8 in that order would be the way that I would go. And the good thing is that because I would stay away from Hamlin and Larson because their prices are so low, I could take all 5 of those drivers or 6 of those drivers and I'd fit it in. I could put a couple of bucks on the long shots, a little more on some of the favorites. So that's the way I would do it. And if I was going to go low, then I would definitely take Hamlin over Larson. I mean, if I'm going to go low, then I'm not going to waste my time with Larson at 5-1 when I could take Denny Hamlin, who is also driving a Toyota. But hey, like I said before, maybe Chevy will come out there and they will win their second race in next gen, even though their win by Elliott in 2022 was a DQ'd thing by Hamlin. And you could say, yeah, but he deserved to be DQ'd. And if it wasn't because of that, Elliott would have won. So I don't want to get into that. Have a great time tomorrow. Take advantage of the fact that the race will start early. Thank goodness for that. And let's hope that there's no rain. I haven't looked at the forecast. I just heard the message. So I'm hoping that this decision will be very smart when it's all said and done. I hope it's not one of those things where it'll rain like, I don't know, with 30 laps to go. And you're saying to yourself, well, why didn't you just start at 12 then? So hopefully they've timed it out and they know that it won't start raining until after the race is finished by starting 2 hours earlier. So let's hope that's the case. We'll see everybody on Tuesday for the big San Diego street race. So we have no idea how to handicap that race, really. I mean, we're going to come at you with street racing history in Chicago. We're going to come out with and we had the Mexico thing. And then we're going to come out with obviously road courses and the Mexico thing. And we're going to do, which of course, I mean, we all know what's going on. I got the first pick next week, so you know where I'm going. I think we know what we're doing with SVG again next week. And the good thing too is that when, at least for now, on the road courses with SVG, at least on Tuesdays, his odds are still pretty decent. That you're not like at minus 150 or minus 200 like that. Because once it gets to that level, then it's like either A, I'm not betting it and I'll take the week off, or B, I have to take another driver and just hope something happens to SVG like happened to him the first race this year. So I just hope they don't do that. I hope they at least keep SVG's numbers around minus 120 or even on Tuesdays, so I could still bet them and get away with it. And again, same reason why I'm saying that you can do that with Denny Hamlin tomorrow. Okay. Best of luck, everybody. We'll see everyone else on Tuesday. There's links in the description of this video where you can check out CJ's report at rotowire.com. He's got his DFS report. So that's at RotoWire. There's a link in the description. Check it out. Check out our show on Tuesday, every Tuesday, because we get CJ's opinion and we go over all the early odds and everything that you want to know way in advance before I do this on Saturday nights. And then we'll talk about a San Diego street race on our next show. Also, make sure you can check out here on Proline TV Tuesday. We have Andy Iskoe and Jim Feist on the Jim Feist Handicapping Show, as Jim and Andy will talk about the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. And don't also forget to look in the description of this video for my football shows at the Our Lads Football Network. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Every show, I'm there interviewing at least one team analyst covering one team from either college or the NFL. I get all this great information really early in the, we've got 3 months before the season begins. So I'm getting some really good early information on NFL and college football teams, taking a look at their depth charts, especially in college with all the changeover in the portal and everything like that. So they're really informative, and you want to check that out at the Our Lads Football Network. And then I'll see everybody here on Proline TV on Monday. I think it's going to be on Monday because it's a big one coming up next week, the U.S. Open. So that's one of the biggest events of the year in professional golf. And I will be on the air on Monday at some time, probably in the evening. Probably in the evening for sure, because I know I'm going to be tied up all day. So it's either going to be a Monday night show or Tuesday. But trust me, I'll be on before the PGA Tour event. The U.S. Open starts on Thursday, and I'll give you my take on picks and things of that nature for the U.S. Open on Proline TV. Okay, I'm out of here. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day watching Pocono and NASCAR tomorrow, everybody.